Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is part 4 video on ReactJS CRUD example. Okay, now let's try to implement the update operation. Previously we implemented create operation, right? Now let's implement a update operation where it will contain update form so that we can update the item. Okay, so first let's add the page level component for update. Okay, inside of the pages folder add like a new component update fruit. Okay, and we know how to create the React component function and name of the component. And name of the component first character must be capital letter. Okay, and it will return JSX. For now I can return imaginary tags, and we have to import the XML, sorry, component. Now configure route for our update fruit component. So go to app component. Here we have to add one more route element. Okay, route, and we have to define the path. Okay, and I will give a route like edit hyphen fruit. So this is a static route, but for update form we have to pass the item ID which we want to edit. So whenever the component is navigated with the item ID in the URL, component will read the ID from the URL and then call a API call, and that API response will be populated into the update form so that user can update the data. So to get that edit form data, we need ID. So that ID we are going to get from the URL. Okay, so that means URL, some part of URL must contain the dynamic value. That dynamic value nothing but the ID. So to represent the dynamic placeholder, you have to specify like colon and placeholder name. Here colon and ID is my placeholder name. Okay. So whenever it renders, edit slash and your ID will be rendered on the UI. Okay. And next we know we have to specify the element, that is our update fruit. Okay. Either you can leave like this or you can use self-closing tag. When there is no content inside of the component, then you can directly use the self-closing element. Okay. Now what I will do, just think like ID is coming. Okay. So I want to read the data from the URL. Okay. So to read a ID value from the URL, we can use a function like use params. Okay. Use params that loads from the React router doc. Okay, and it will be assigned to a object, and in that object just specify the placeholder name. In our case, what is the dynamic placeholder ID, right? So copy that and add it as a property in this object. So use param automatically pick up the value of this placeholder from the URL and assign it back to this ID value. Okay, so now I have ID. So now I have to call the HTTP GET request by ID, which will return the specific record that related to the ID we requested. Okay. So how we can frame API URL? We can go to the GitHub link, JSON server GitHub link, and you can see a GET request sample here. Slash ID will fetches the particular record from the server. Okay. I am going to frame URL like this. So for that, so I want to load the item to edit in the component render, right? So what we have to, where we have to call our Axios call inside of the use effects. We know that. So use effects. Okay. And first input parameter will be the arrow function and second value will be the empty array. If it is empty array, this use effect will execute only once. Okay. Now here I can use Axios since it is a get call, right? Get, and now I have to frame the URL with the dynamic value. So use backticks, not double quotes, because here I am going to use the string interpolation for dynamic generating the string. Okay, backticks, and let me get my API URL. Go to add fruit and copy this. This is my normal API URL, and to make it get by ID slash, and here we have to pass our ID value. So to pass ID value dynamically, I can use dollar and flower braces. So it will generate a dynamic URL with the ID in it. Okay. So what is our ID? ID here is there, right? I can directly access ID. Okay. Then, then and response. So this response will contain response.data. From that data, we have to bind it to our form. Okay. So what I will do, I am going to get some code from our add fruit component. First thing is, let me copy the all the HTML content from the our add fruit component, because most of the things are common. Okay. So paste it over here. Okay. And form heading change to update. Okay. And form fields are same. And for now, let's remove the click event for the submit. Okay. Yeah, those are the changes required in our HTML we copied. And here there are fruit name and quantity like that variables, right? Those are useref variables. So copy those variables as well. Okay. So copying them from the add fruit component and add them here. Okay. And we have to import the useref namespace. Okay. So now I have to bind my response data to the form. For that, what I can do, I can use the useref variables. So root name dot current dot value equal to response dot data dot name. These are the response properties. Okay. This data contains our record object. Same way, quantity dot current dot value dot response dot data dot quantity, and price current dot value equal to response dot data dot, and what I can say, cost. If you have any doubts how the response object, you can use db.json file and copy these values data.cost, data.quantity, like that. Okay. Similarly, last one, image URL current dot value equal to response dot data dot, copy the image URL. Okay. So once the component is rendered, now data must be populated because we are invoking the get call in the use effects. Okay, and I have added form, bootstrap form components and button component, right? But I haven't imported the namespaces. So let's import those things as well from our add fruit component to update component. Now the thing I want to do is I want to add a edit button on each card of the item. Okay, for that I have to go to all fruit component, and here under the body card I can add a button. So let me copy the button from here. Okay, button name will be edit button. and primary color okay, button type will be button, and I want to use the navigate method only, so I will use arrow function simply, but I have to change the navigation value. Okay, so we know dynamic value, right? Dynamic URL, right? We have to add, so we have to use backticks and go to our app.js, copy this edit fruit string and paste it over here, slash dollar and flower braces. I can pass item.id. Okay, so whenever this edit button clicked, we are going to navigate onto the update form. Let's test it. Button little big, right? So what we will do, let's copy this button and paste it inside of the card body. Okay, now it is little better. Okay, now if I click on the edit button, let's open network calls also to check the get by ID API call. Okay, click on edit button. See, all my form data automatically populated into the form. And if you see here, this is my get request and dynamic URL ID value is passing here and get request. And in the preview, you can see the record we requested returning as a response. And that data is populated back onto the our form. And here you can see in the URL, our dynamic value 3 is added. Now, on submitting the form, data must be posted back to the server and saved to the server. Okay. And for put request, it is very simple. Just like get by ID, your URL for put means updating. Okay. HTTP put request means your URL slash ID and payload you have to pass. Okay. So let's work on that. So now get back to our update fruits.js, and for this submit button, we have to add a new click event handler. Okay, for that, what I will do, I will create a new handler like const update fruit handler. Okay, and an arrow function. So here, first we have to prepare the payload. So to prepare the payload, we know how to prepare, right? We can read from the form fields using this reference variable, and we are already prepared same kind of object in add fruit. So I simply copy that payload to save some time. Okay, and add it here. Here nothing is there, just our form field dot current means it will get control over the text box field. Dot value means whatever the value we are having, we are assigning to our payload variable. And here we are converting as a numbers because by default value returns string. Okay. Now I have to call the Axios update request. So Axios dot put. See, put means update request. So Axios will provide separate method for each request type. Okay. And we know the put request should contain the dynamic ID value, right? So that in server, based on this ID value passed, that record will be updated. So what I will do, I simply copy the same URL from here. Okay. And second parameter payload we have to pass. Okay. And on successful update on API successful, we must navigate back to our home page. For that, I will add a one more variable. Okay, like constant navigate, and that will have use navigate method. Okay, now I can use navigate variable, and simply slash, that means navigate to home page. Okay, I think we are done with the logic for updating. Yeah, I haven't registered, right? We have to register this event for submit click event. So on click Okay. Yeah. Now test it. Update operation. So let's try to update quantity and the cost of this grapes item. Okay. Edit. Quantity will be 5. Cost will be some 750. Okay. If I click on submit, let me open terminal. Sorry, developer tool. Go to network calls. Okay. Click on XHR. So click on submit. See, quantity value 5 and cost value 750 successfully updated. And if you check this URL, you can see the request with the ID in the URL and request method is put. And in the payload tab, you can see this is the data we posted to the server. And that is successful. Here it is written as a response. And here you can see our data is updated. If you refresh also, you will get same thing because the data is successfully saved in the server. Okay, that's all about the edit operation. Next, we are going to implement the delete operation. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.